Welcome everyone to week 5 of the Alkaline Diet Success Formula, and it's great to be with you again. We've covered some quite considerable material now in the 4 weeks before today. We've got 2 sessions left. This week we're going to be looking at stress for success, and next week we're going to be looking at how to build more momentum with what we're doing here. So let's just go on to the slideshow so that I can actually show you how this works. Here we go, we'll go from current slide. So, talked about winning the mental game, and this is always the one to win, and I know that it's making such a difference, those of you who are feeling like you're winning it, and those of you just thinking, quite got there yet, but you will do, I promise you. Persistence is the key factor here. Put one foot in front of the other and you will get there, because you'll simply be changing the habits and patterns, and that's what this is all about. And sometimes repetition and conditioning are the best ways of changing habits and patterns, and just keep at it and those habits and patterns will change. And we talked about alkalizing and adding vitality. We looked at gentle detoxing, regular exercise last week. So this week is all about how to turn stress into a positive force in your life. And as I say, next week we're going to be building momentum. So as usual, notes please. It's always useful to make a note of useful points that you think, right, I can act on this, I'm going to make this happen. But most importantly, actually do this stuff. And it's all about making it happen. So last week, in terms of home play, what I asked you to do is to find your favourite form of exercise and make a start with it. And preferably, I'd really advise you to start to make this a daily habit, because as I said before, there are so many positive benefits of regular exercise in the fat burning range, which go so far beyond alkalizing and weight loss. They are just huge, and I think that until you experience that, it's quite hard to believe. But I know that for those of you who are putting some form of daily exercise into your life, the benefits are compounding in a very, very big way. So this is probably the biggest lever to pull, really, as long as you are doing the exercise in the fat burning range, and I explained exactly how to do that last week. And I also asked you if you could read ahead a little bit, so I'm hoping that this isn't all totally new material, those of you on the program live, in terms of what we'll be talking about. I sent you my interview with Laura Wilson, and particularly Laura's tips on breathing and rebounding and some other good stuff that she had to share. As I say, amazing lady, and I think you've got a sense of her energy, her dynamism and her enthusiasm from listening to that interview, which I really enjoyed making with her. And as usual, it's the slight edge that's going to win for you, because the slight edge by now, week 5, has really started to build a wave. If you've been doing these things day after day and layering the steps week after week, then you will be experiencing the results. And remember, this is a lifestyle change. It isn't a quick fix for a few weeks and then you return to the old acidic Western diet and lifestyle. You are going to want to continue living this way because it's such a no-brainer. When you have more energy, when you can literally get more out of the day because you're up an hour earlier and ready to go, because you're sleeping better, your skin is looking better, you've just got that mental clarity, your problem-solving ability is enhanced, your stress threshold has gone up dramatically, and I'll be telling more about that in a few moments, then it's something you don't want to return to, that sluggish sort of fuzzy head feeling that one or two of you have talked about that, you know, has often been a characteristic of previous feelings. So get these habits and patterns installed. So this is the bit that I think is again, it's often not reported, not covered in many approaches to diet and lifestyle, but stress is a factor in our Western lives. It's just there, you know. It always has been in a sense in our physiology, because obviously the fight or flight mechanism is designed to give us a boost of energy. But in doing that, in giving us that boost of energy, this adrenaline rush that we're all aware of and we've all experienced it at times, it's great if you're trying to win a gold medal in the 100-meter sprint, but it's not too good if you're sitting in a meeting with somebody and you're creating that acid. It's got nowhere to go. It's just going to sit there and find its way into your bloodstream, and this is why, you know, one of the reasons why people are often chronically acidic Because as I've said before, and I do want you to listen to the interview I did with Phil Richards, what Phil says is in order of importance, you need to start with what you think, what you drink, and only then with what you eat. And Phil, working with very top-level sports people, top-level Premiership footballers, this is the way he works. And he recognises that stress is a big factor. So getting your thinking right, getting your mindset right is absolutely crucial. Now, one of the great things about what I'm going to be talking about is that you can use stress to your benefit when you know how to. If you didn't feel stressed, for example, if you went into an examination, I'm thinking of Naya at the moment, who isn't on the call tonight, and one of the reasons is she's doing her exams at the moment, her university exams. But if you go into an exam without any stress at all, then you're not actually going to be able to perform. You're not going to be able to do 4 essays in 3 hours or whatever is the requirement, because you're just not going to be flowing. You're not going to be your energy is going to be lower. So stress is a very positive thing, but I know plenty of people who go into an exam situation and the stress actually causes them problems. You know, it causes them problems in their thinking, it causes them to sweat, it causes them anxiety. And when you get a level of stress which we can't tolerate, and I'll be explaining a valuable metaphor to help you think about that, then it's a negative effect in our life. But actually, a certain level of stress, and I'm sure you would all agree with this, is positive. You know, when we've got to get up and stand up and make a speech, we're expecting to feel those butterflies in the stomach. We're expecting to feel a little bit of adrenaline, maybe a little bit of colour in the cheeks, and that's going to create a much better performance. If I'm honest, I always feel a little bit of stress before I do a webinar, and I know it's a good thing, because I know I'm going to be energetic, I'm going to be up for it, I've got the energy, I've got the vitality, and that's really healthy. But if I was a bag of nerves sitting here, if stress was causing me to stutter in my words, if it was causing my breath to be a problem, if I was sitting here sweating, then you would be able to tell, first of all. But secondly, it would be creating that acidity in my mind and body, which is only going to add to the acidity in my bloodstream. So we need to be able to use stress to our benefit, and I'm going to show you some really great ways of doing that. Now, this is the analogy that I think is so powerful. Now, this isn't my analogy. This comes from a very well-known professor of psychology called Dr. Carey Cooper. Professor Carey Cooper, I think he's now. He's a very, very well-known exponent in this whole area of stress and managing stress, and particularly in the workplace. And what Carey Cooper talks about is, think of stress or experiencing stress. It's a bit like a bath filling up with water. You've got water coming into the bath through the taps, and that represents what we call your stressors, the factors or the things in your life that are adding to your stress levels. And we've all got those. We've got them every day. You know, we have to make a living, we have to put food on the table for the family, we have to keep the house clean and tidy, we've got visitors coming at the weekend, and we think, right, I better get it sorted out. We've got lots of stressors in our lives. Now, what happens is that we've got the way of water leaving the bath through the plug hole, and this actually represents your coping mechanisms or your ways of dealing with and reducing stress. So you've got water coming in through the taps, that's your stressors in the analogy, and we've got water leaving the bath through the plug hole. These are your ways of dealing with and reducing stress, your coping mechanisms. But as we've all experienced, if water continues to flow into a bath faster than it leaves through the plug hole, then the bath will overflow and there's water everywhere. And that's when you experience acidic stress. That's that feeling of being out of control. In other words, your ability to cope has been exceeded. And that's probably the easiest definition of stress. Stress, and it's a very subjective thing for everybody, it's that level of anxiety that comes from going beyond our ability to cope in the moment. And in a moment it's fine, we can often recover it, but if this goes on for days, weeks, months, it can become really chronic, and that can have some really significant effects on our physiology and our whole life. So stress is something that we need to become more and more aware of, and I think it's very, very important, if we're going to live an alkaline lifestyle, to be able to handle stress and use it as a constructive force for good in our lives. In other words, get the benefits of a little bit of adrenaline, get the benefits of that feeling of being pumped up for something without it spilling over. In other words, the water coming over the top of the bath to the point where we're actually out of control with it and we can't deal with it. And, you know, you can tell when people are in the zone or not. You know, you can tell when people are actually handling the stress that's going on, and then it manifests. Suddenly they almost seem to blow a gasket. It just like erupts, and you see it. Now, What's going on in physiological terms is that we have these things called the adrenal glands. Now, these are little triangular glands which actually sit on top of the kidneys, and their function is to produce adrenaline and cortisol. And I say this goes back to primitive Stone Age days when we had the fight, and we still have the fight or flight mechanism, let's face it. But what happens is that under stress, these glands, these adrenal glands, produce the hormones adrenaline and cortisol. And I think I've touched on before, these hormones actually cause acidity. And in quantity, they can cause us to hold on to weight round the middle, because as I explained before, the fat, the weight round the middle, is actually protecting our vital organs from the corrosive effects of acid, because acid burns. And the same is true, as I said, in terms of cholesterol lining the walls of our arteries. That cholesterol is there to protect the delicate artery walls from the corrosive effects of acid. Now, this is really quite profound, and you know, you don't need to get worried about the theory, but if you at least have some understanding of it, then you become more conscious and more aware of your ability to handle stress in the moment. And let's face it, we all have that ability. Whether we've practiced it, whether it's conscious, that's another matter. And this is something I'm going to help you with a little bit today, because you can learn to understand and manage stress proactively. And it's very important that you begin to do so, because stress is a factor of life. You will never live a stress-free life. You know, wealthy people just have bigger problems. The problems don't go away. You know, they just have bigger problems to deal with. But actually, their threshold or their ability to deal with those problems rises. And I don't really focus in on wealth here, but that's just one example. So, you know, you could be broke and not necessarily be experiencing lots of stress if you're handling it okay, or you could be incredibly wealthy and still be experiencing a huge amount of stress because you're not actually able to handle the problems that are coming your way. So what I want you to think about is, how does stress manifest for you? How do you experience stress in your body? And I'll give you some examples, because it's really important to be able to tune into this. Some people, for example, might get a pain in the neck, or they might get this sort of pain in the temples, you know, there's this sort of feeling that there's a bit of a migraine coming, or a bit of a headache. Or they might get a pain in the back, or sometimes a very common one is a sort of tightness in the chest. That sort of feeling that your breathing isn't quite as smooth and easy as it might be. I mean, clearly when this gets more chronic, we can have problems sleeping. You know, it can start to manifest in terms of skin complaints. You know, people get rashes quite literally, and almost get a rash on your neck sometimes when you have a level of stress that's that much. So there are lots of different ways that people manifest stress. And what I want you to do as part of this week's home play, and you might just want to start thinking about it now, is to think about how stress manifests for you in both your physiology and your mind. And this will help you a lot, because what happens is, you know, it sort of escalates. We've all got little indicators of when we're starting to experience it. And as I said, one of mine is, if I get a little sort of slight neck pain, and there's always a spot, there's like a weak spot back of my neck where I know, okay, I'm getting a bit of stress, right, I need to get some exercise, or I need to relax, I need to get out, I need to change my state somehow. That's just a little trigger for me, and if I ignore it, it tends to step up, and it manifests in a bigger way somewhere else. So just get clear and think about consciously how stress manifests for you in your own life. And then what I also want you to do is to think about the things that are causing you to feel stress in your life right now. And we've all got them. You know, it might be paying the mortgage, it might be, you know, handling the business at the moment. Might have a particularly challenging account or client that you're thinking, oh, how am I going to deal with this? You know, you might have a seminar to present next week when you're actually thinking, what am I going to say? There are lots of stressors in all of our lives. Stressors will always be here, and we can't push them away. We can't ignore them. What we do is we increase our ability to cope. In other words, our coping mechanisms actually give us a wider repertoire of ways of dealing with stress. And, you know, I do speak from personal experience, because before I started to alkalise, I used to experience a lot of stress, and I think I touched on this in the introductory webinar. You know, I used to find myself waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I used to get terrible neck pain. In fact, I went for Alexander technique lessons for many years to try and rid myself of neck pain, but I actually realised that was just a symptom. I needed to get to the root underlying causes, which was basically cleansing my system, being healthy at the cellular level by eating an alkaline diet. So actually what you're doing when you're starting to follow the alkalizing approach is that you're actually eliminating one of the root causes of stress already, which is this chronic Western acidic lifestyle and diet, which many people consume. And literally, when you begin to alkalize physiologically, your stress threshold, your ability to cope with stress actually goes up. And you can take things on that previously would have floored you. And again, I speak from personal experience. You know, I began as a corporate trainer over 5 years ago, and I can remember when I presented my first session, we were sort of given our wings and told to sort of go out and train groups of 30 people who were paying a lot of money for this particular course. And I can remember being so nervous and literally stammering over my words and finding it really difficult to get any sort of flow going. And yet once my stress threshold increased through good diet and lifestyle, then obviously I was becoming more familiar with the material, but my ability to handle those difficult questions, all those complicated circumstances that will always arise, just went up dramatically. So we are really working with the root causes here, and that's why I want you to think about the personal stressors that you have, the things that are causing you to feel stress in your life at the moment. And then, very importantly, what helps you deal with stress? How do you alleviate stress and deal with it? Now, this is unique almost to all of us. I can't give you a one-size-fits-all formula here and say, right, what you need to do is X and you'll never have stress again. Because we all manifest stress in different ways, and because we've all got different stressors going on in our lives, in other words, we've got different shaped taps attached to our bath, and we've got different flow rate coming through those taps, then we actually need to deal with and alleviate stress in different ways, which are unique to us. And this is all part of the personal development journey, in my view, that we actually, as we get more mature, as we get more conscious, we get better at understanding and managing stress and having a wider repertoire of coping mechanisms. Let me give you some examples of coping mechanisms. I've touched on the nutrition one already. Good nutrition and proper hydration are the absolute base plates. You know, we all need to be doing these, and we are now on this program, I know. Sensible, regular exercise is a very, very good stress buster. To be honest, I find if I'm stressed, even if I'm physically exhausted, I can go and get some gentle aerobic exercise in the fat burning range, and suddenly my mental clarity is opened up, my energy levels come up, I feel the stress lifting. It's the release of these natural endorphins, this natural almost antidote to the stress hormones that is sort of alleviating that stressed out feeling. And nobody's yet found a way of bottling endorphins. You just have to create them yourself. You know, that's a naturally occurring substance in our bodies. But one of the best ways that you can create them is with some exercise. I'm going to say more about meditation later on in this session, because personally I believe it's one of the best ways of slight edge building your tolerance and ability to handle with stress. And again, I speak from great personal experience. I've used meditation to fantastic effect, and it really has helped me. Now, if you want to do some other form of relaxation, that's entirely up to you, but I'll be talking about a particular form of meditation that I use. Another one is maintaining friendships and good relationships. I think when we're around people and we're feeling our flow with those people, when those people are the sort of people that we really want to be around, it's great. You know, that Tony Robbins says about relationships, the purpose of a relationship is to magnify the human experience. Now the question is, in your relationships, which sort of experiences are you magnifying? You know, are you in relationships with people who are magnifying the good in you, or the indifferent, or the not so good? And you know, we've all experienced the three variations on this, but ideally we want to be in relationships with people who are magnifying the good things in our life, and we can magnify the good things in their life. And the example that Tony Robbins uses, which I like very much, is you should imagine going to a football match or a sports event. Would you rather 100,000 people in the stadium or 5 people? And you might think, well, 5, I get a better seat. But actually, it wouldn't be much atmosphere, you know, when the winning goal's scored and 5 people are going, yeah, great, yeah, that was really good. What you need is that feeling, that elation when in injury time, you know, the underdog team actually scores the winning goal and lifts the FA Cup, and the feeling in the stadium that is magnified. I can feel it now. I've got a tingle going through me because I've been to matches like that, or been in situations like that in a stadium of up to 100,000 people, and there is no feeling like it. That is the magnification of the human experience. That's what happens in a relationship. And the question is, you know, which sort of relationships are you in? Are you magnifying the good experiences, or are you magnifying the bad ones? And all of these things, as I said before, are excellent ways of heading off stress before it becomes a problem. So what you need to be doing is increasing your sensory acuity around stress. So becoming more aware of when stress is starting to impact you negatively. Because as I say, up to a certain point, it's a good thing. We need a certain level of stress in our lives, otherwise we probably wouldn't bother to get out of bed. But realistically, there is a point where it starts to manifest in unhelpful ways, and it's knowing when you're getting close to that so that you can actually bring in your coping mechanisms, like open up the plug hole, drain off some of that water from the bath, and start to feel, you know, just generally much more relaxed. And a great question that you can ask yourself in this context is, what did I do in the last 24 hours that either increased or decreased my energy levels? Because it is all about energy. You know, we feel when stress is optimal, we've got great energy. But when stress goes suboptimal, when it goes over the top, then our energy is literally being sapped away. And, you know, if you've ever felt pretty anxious consistently about something, it's just like there's a battery drain running on you, and you just feel like energy sipping away. It's just not there. So some examples of things that you can do to increase your energy levels. Obviously, drinking enough water really does, because as I said before, water, and the right kinds of water, so alkaline water, provides basic electro energy to the trillions of cells in your body. And this is one of the reasons why I was advocating not staying up late, because what staying up late actually does is it negatively affects tomorrow's energy. And I'll be talking to a number of you, but many who work on PCs or a laptop all day and don't take regular breaks. And you find that if you push yourself really hard and really late one day, it always knocks on into the next day, always, without fail. So what you need to be able to do is to find a system, find a way, and the way I like to do it is to work in 45-minute chunks with a 5-minute break between 2 45 minutes, and then a nice 20-minute break after you've done 2 lots of 45. So what you've got is a way of getting away from the computer, getting yourself over and above the detail that you might have been working on. Give yourself some context for what you're doing, some perspective. And what you find is that doesn't then knock on into the next day, that feeling of exhaustion and struggling to get started again. You're going to actually be able to maintain an energy and a momentum over many, many days. The other thing that I find really good and that works for me is exercising in the morning. And if you can do it before breakfast, it really is great. And the times when I've been able to do that, I feel energized, clear-headed. Even after breakfast, that's when I tend to do my exercise now, and I find it works really well before I start the working day, because what it does is increases my productivity for the whole day, because I've got oxygen flowing to my brain, I've got blood pumping around my system, I feel alive, I feel energetic, and I'm able to use that energy for the whole day. So just think about what you've done in the last 24 hours that's either increased or decreased your energy levels. And so what I'm saying is do less of the negative things and more of the positive ones. So it really is very easy, but this is where you do need to do your own work on this, because everybody's different and everybody has different factors, different things that increase or decrease their energy levels. Now, I used this photo last week. It's just there as an illustration, really, but one of the best ways in which you can make stress work for you is moderate exercise. I talked about its stress-busting capabilities. Because it's alkalizing, it's literally blowing out that acid, the impact of adrenaline and cortisol, especially if you're exercising in the right heart rate range. It's great for the lungs, the blood flow, the oxygen to the brain, the whole thing. And, as I said before, cycling is my thing. That's not what I'm going to prescribe for you. You've got to find something that works. And I'm hoping that during the course of the last week with the home play I asked you to do, you found something. And I know that many of you have already established a pattern around exercise anyway. Now, meditation. I mean, I could talk for hours about meditation, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but I'm a convert. As I've said before, I have in in my life experienced a lot of stress, and meditation has enabled me to really conquer it and to live a life of abundance, happiness, joy, gratitude. Just quietening the mind for 15 minutes every day is a fantastic slight edge way of increasing your stress threshold. Now, as I may have mentioned before, it's no accident that every practitioner who contributed to the movie or the film The Secret practices daily meditation. It's not just a spiritual thing, it's actually a physiological thing, and a mental game. And, you know, it's just something I would urge you, if you've never tried it before. You might be thinking, well, how am I going to find 15 or 20 minutes a day? You know, I've got to get the kids out of the house, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. The payback is enormous. The payback is huge. It's tenfold on your investment, even within a few days. So, you know, if you just give it a try, you'll find that the benefits really do speak for themselves, and you won't want to stop doing it. And I've got a particular approach that I'll tell you about in a moment that I use. But another great way to make stress work for you is to practice daily gratitude. And if you want to be specific about this and you want to be procedural about it, one way of doing it is literally to write down in a journal or piece of paper 10 things that you're grateful for every day. You know, you might do it at the end of the day, you might do it at the beginning of the day, trying to make it a ritual, trying to make something that becomes habitual. Because what happens is that when you are in gratitude, you can't feel stressed. If you've ever tried it, you know, if you're feeling stressed and you suddenly think, okay, let me think of 10 things that I'm really, really, really grateful for, and you start flooding your mind and literally speaking these reasons for why you're so grateful out loud, the stress just dissipates. It cannot exist in that mental frame. And it's the complete antidote to stress. So, you know, in the moment, that is such a terrific way of blowing stress out. And something else that I haven't mentioned on there is breathing. And Tony Robbins has a particular breathing technique which I use as part of the Daily Magic program, sometimes known as the Hour of Power, and it involves taking 4 consecutive breaths in and letting 4 consecutive breaths out. And you do this as you're walking along, so you literally do it in step. And what this power breathing pattern does is it just eliminates stress. It's not possible to feel that stress in the moment. And the meditation technique I'm about to explain to you also uses a breathing technique as a way of taking our mind, our focus away from the day-to-day chatter, the mental chatter, you know, the little voice in the back of your head. You're thinking, which voice? That's the one. It's that mental chatter that we need to start to just quieten for a bit. One of the best ways is to learn to say no. This is a tough one for some people. You know, we all like to please people to some extent. As I said before, that was a big factor for me earlier in my life, and I realized that I was pleasing no one actually by saying yes to everyone or everything. And learning to say no is really, really important. You can't take on more than you can reasonably do. You know, that's when the water comes gushing over the top of the bath, and it's very liberating to have the strength and the mental clarity and the power to be able to say no. We all need to do it at times, and you know, all sorts of demands come up upon us, and sometimes one of the things I've learned to do in a situation like that where the demands coming left, right and centre, I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, which are the ones that I really have to deliver on here, and which am I just going to have to say, I'm sorry, this has got to wait. And you know, people will always understand when you're coherent, you've got integrity, you're honest about it. But learning to say no is crucially important in certain situations, because you will just make a rod for your own back. And a very simple tip, which I know is often quite hard to do, particularly those of us who work on a computer. The temptation is to want to sort of carry on working through lunch, you know, grab a sandwich, one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the sandwich, and we're off. It's really important that you first of all eat consciously, and I explained the reasons why that's important last week, insofar as the alkaline saliva is mixing properly with our food, and that's already starting the digestion process in the mouth, and therefore we're going to feel more energetic more quickly because we're actually metabolizing the food away. But also it gives us that psychological break from our work. And one of the things that I do religiously is I will often go for a walk over lunchtime, just to physically get away from my computer, get away from the work environment, even after I've had something to eat, and just get my head clear. And I find that I come back and I'm so much more productive. And I can hear people saying, oh, I don't have the time to do that, and possibly do that. But as I say, it's a bit like meditation. It will pay you back many, many, many times over. And you just have to start to experience it in your mind and body to realize how much that is the case. So stopping and enjoying lunch, eating consciously, making sure that you take proper breaks. These are ways in which you can make stress work for you rather than against you. And I've literally got a kitchen timer with me here. You can probably just hear it. It's a it goes up to 2 hours, but I set it for 45-minute intervals. It rings and I stop. Whatever, I just literally round off what I'm doing at that moment. If I'm writing an email, I'll just finish it off. And I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes. And I'll do another 45 minutes on the timer, and then I'll take a 20-minute break. And it was Cavitaria who explained this technique to me, and it's a very, very good technique for internet marketers and others who are constantly sitting in front of a computer. But apart from anything else, you get repetitive strain in your wrists. I've had that feeling in the wrist where it's just literally really, really tight. So you need proper breaks. I think I've made that very clear. So this is the meditation process that I am so fanatical about, and I've no vested interest in this. I'm not making affiliate commissions on it, but this has changed my life, and I'm sitting with the book in front of me right now. It's called Getting into the Vortex, Guided Meditations CD and User Guide by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And I had to find it by accident. I was actually looking for another book on Amazon, and this one popped up as they do on Amazon, saying people who also bought this book, bought that book. And I just thought, okay, I'm meant to buy this. And it has changed my life, because there's a CD in the back of this book, and you put the CD into your CD player, or you can copy it onto your computer, and you sit down and you just listen for 15 minutes and breathe in a pattern which is explained to you in the meditation track which is going on your ear. And I can't tell you how relaxing it is. And it only involves 15 minutes every day. This book and CD costs about £10 on Amazon. I have to say it's the best investment I've ever made. And I think Angela, who's listening, has started using it. I know that Lisa has been using it for a number of weeks. We heard from Lisa last week, and she's a great fan. She's not on tonight because it's her birthday, and she's been surprised by her boyfriend. But she would be singing its praises from the rooftops right now if she was talking to us. So I just urge you to find something that you can use in terms of a regular daily meditation, because everybody who's practiced The Secret and benefited from The Secret, all those practitioners, they use meditation. Quieting the mind is such a fantastic antidote to the frenetic lifestyle that many of us have to lead today. You can hear it, you can see it in people's body language and in the way they work. Trying to do 3 things at once, which is great, but sometimes you just got to stop. And you just got to give yourself that recharge. And I just see it as a major, major recharge for the battery, which doesn't just charge it for a few hours. It compounds to produce a better and better battery every single day. And, personally, I just think there isn't any better way of doing it. And this particular program I'm talking to you about focuses on 4 key areas. You do a 15-minute meditation on general well-being one day, then you move on to the one on financial abundance the next day, physical health the day after, relationships the day after, and you cycle back around them. So you only do 15 minutes a day. But what it does is it's taking you through the 4 key pillars of life. And, this will go far beyond just your physical health. It will manifest in your financial life. It will manifest in the quality of your relationships, in your whole well-being. So this is why I'm so passionate about it, because it does compound to produce a massive slight edge difference. I've been using this program for about 2 months, and the differences that I'm seeing in all areas of my life, some of it's very subtle and quite hard to put into words, and I think when something's hard to put into words, it's profound, because the English language doesn't contain enough richness to be able to encapsulate that difference. So it really is a big lever which will positively affect your whole life, and that's why I'm so passionate about this one. But if you want to go with another one, I just urge you to find some form of daily meditation or relaxation and experience it, and I think you'll be blown away by the results. So there's some things I'd like you to do this week as part of your home play. As I said before, I'd like you to list down on a piece of paper or in a journal how you experience stress, how stress manifests for you, physiologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What are your personal stressors? In other words, what are the things in your life that are causing you stress now, at this point in your life? And what sort of coping mechanisms do you have, and how are you going to use those coping mechanisms? And as I say, what I'd really love you to do is to practice meditation for 15 minutes every day this week. Now, this is where you need to have the powerful whys, but you can find the time. And if you find the time, you'll get it back 10 times over. I can promise you that for a few days. I'm going to make available my expert interview with Phil Richards. Now, I'm really proud of this interview because Phil is in demand the world over by top sports people, athletes, Premiership footballers, rugby players. He's an absolute expert. And what he had to say in the area of stress and mental well-being just blew me away. And I won't spoil it by telling you if you haven't listened to it already. So I'm going to include it and ask you to listen to it as part of this week's home play because it's gold dust. And then when you put some of the ideas that Phil has shared with us into practice, you really will see the benefits in your life. And as usual, it's all about the slight edge baby steps. So installing these new habits and patterns and then seeing just how it impacts your mind and body. And next Thursday is our final session. It's week 6 next Thursday, and we'll be talking about building momentum with this whole approach and how you can really keep it going for life, make it a lifestyle change, not a diet. Remember, we're not a fad here. This isn't a short burst. This is a lifestyle transition which will see you live with health, vitality, energy, and abundance for life. And what a gift that is. So what I'd like to do now is to go on and see how things are going. See if we can get some progress and questions. So I'm just welcome, Eva. I can see you're here. I'm going to go on to Cindy to start with. So I'm just going to unmute you, Cindy. So if you could make sure your microphone is set up properly for us, I'll just bring you in now. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, that's much better. We've got clarity, nice clear sound. Now, you were just sharing with me at the beginning how the week's gone. Do you just want to share it with the rest of us so that we can get some sense of how you're doing?
Yeah, well, actually, I had one kind of fall back and then 3 good things.
Okay.
So I guess I'll do the negative one first.
Okay.
One evening I just kind of snapped and found myself eating consciously.
Right.
A half a can of cake icing,
right.
and then after that I proceeded to a large bowl of popcorn with butter.
How did you feel after all that lot?
Well, that was the most amazing thing because normally I'm not conscious of how I feel after food, but actually after the cake icing, I had such a sugar high I felt absolutely drunk. I've never had this experience before, and I think for the first time I've recognized the impact that certain foods are having on my body.
Right. How interesting. How interesting. So your threshold, your ability to discriminate of these subtleties has just changed dramatically, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Which is kind of interesting.
I'm trying to be more conscious of how do I feel after I eat different things.
Okay, which is great because this is all about conscious awareness in the first place. We can't change things we're not aware of.
Right.
And I think it's really important. Great. Okay, so that was the hiccup. What's going well?
Okay. The one thing was I did get a blood test back, and there were a couple things that I was interested in looking at. One was my cholesterol level, which had been above what it should be. It was like 213, and that is now within the normal range.
Wonderful.
It came down to 192, and also my uric acid had been above the range, and now that's in the normal range.
Wow.
So those were all good.
Well, those 2 really, really good pointers. I mean, you could be taking medications for those and not seeing those sorts of results.
I haven't been taking any medication for those.
No, but you could have been, and some medical practitioner could have prescribed them, and you wouldn't necessarily have got the results either. So I'm actually really pleased with those outcomes. I think that's really positive.
True, and in fact, that's what the doctor said. If you don't bring these down, we'll put you on medication. And it's like, well, I don't want that.
No, and all the side effects that go with them.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing was I did get a juicer, and I'm enjoying trying a number of different juices.
Great.
The challenge is, though, that I'm probably now having 2 apples per day rather than just one sweet fruit.
All right.
Making the juices.
Well, one suggestion would be just put half the apple in the juice and keep the other half of the apple for later. Cover it with some cling film or something. Because yeah, you're right. This could result in you consuming slightly more sugar. But I'm not going to worry about you eating 2 apples a day. I'm really not. I mean, I don't think that's going to blow anything out. And if that makes it more palatable for you to drink the juice, then that's a small price to pay, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I am really enjoying the juices. I think it's good.
Well, great. I mean, just try reducing the apple a bit and see if it takes your taste off the juice, or whether it doesn't make any difference. And then but I'm not going to worry about an apple. I would personally.
Okay. And then the last thing is I did buy the Energize Alkaline cookbook.
Right.
And I'm starting with a friend experimenting with different recipes.
Great.
And we've been visiting the health food stores and buying lots of new products and different things to try.
Okay.
And actually we're going to spend the weekend in Paris, and the biggest concern was, well, what are we going to eat?
Oh, what a problem in Paris, yeah.
Yeah, because we were especially worried about breakfast with pain au chocolat and croissants. And we think what we're going to do is take veggie wraps with vegetables on the train, and hopefully we'll alleviate that.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Paris, and I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. You don't have to live on pain au chocolat and hot chocolate, hot coffee. But no, I think it's lovely. And the wonderful thing about Ross's recipe book is it just gives you a bigger repertoire. You're not stuck eating the same old things. You've got plenty of variety there.
Yeah, and as we looked at the recipes, we said, well, you know what, that looks pretty good, and it looks doable. It looks like an easy cookbook.
Yeah, I think I told you I was at Ross's Alkaline Live event last Thursday night, a week ago today, and they had all the recipe books there. They were juicing on stage. They were producing these salads in front of our eyes, and we were drinking alkaline water. And just an amazing event, actually. The energy was palpable. It was fantastic. You can imagine all those alkaline lifestyle people in a room. There is going to be a buzz. Wow. So I'm delighted for you. Well done. And there are always going to be challenges. It isn't linear always upwards. It does cycle round. And I'm kind of pleased in the sense that you've experienced that sugar rush and have that sense of what it's like to put all that toxicity into your body, because your body will immediately tell you it didn't like it, which is what it did.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, thanks, Cindy. I'm going to close your microphone off now. I'm going to bring Angela in. So thanks for that.
Thanks.
Hello, Angela. How are you doing? Hello, Angela. How are you doing?
Hi, Andrew. It's making me smile actually how many similarities that I'm having, experiencing like Cindy.
Wow.
And changes definitely to taste buds.
Right.
So I have started having more tofu rather than protein, but
yeah.
I ran out and actually made myself a chicken stir fry that I had been making with the tofu. And it was very interesting that subconsciously I ate all the vegetables and then what I was left with was chicken on the plate.
Interesting.
Which I actually left and gave to the dog. So it was bizarre because normally I would probably have eaten the chicken first.
Great. So you made that subconscious shift actually.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit of feedback on your sound here, Angela. I don't know if there's anything you could do about that. That's better.
Is that okay? Right.
That's getting better. I think sometimes it's like when there's an external microphone. That's really good. I think what you're finding is that you want to make the natural healthy choices at this stage.
Yeah, I have had some bacon, and which I haven't had since I started this. So, and that actually made me feel physically sick.
Wow.
The bacon, and then I went to the gym with my sister, and as a treat, we were having a skinny latte.
Yeah.
And unbelievable from a skinny latte, the amount of acid I could taste in my mouth from that.
Wow.
So, actually wanting to have the wheatgrass and enjoying the taste, and red bush tea, so these are very, very subconscious. So now, I don't want to have my skinny latte. I want to have my red bush tea. So
pleased for you. I'm so pleased.
I know.
I said this would happen, and the trouble is, it's like the disbelieving stage.
Yes. Well, especially for the first few days when you think, oh God, drinking wheatgrass is just,
Well done you.
Yeah, and I've also got Ross's brand new recipe book with all his bonuses and eating plans and things, which is great.
Brilliant.
So that came on. That was just came out this week.
Right.
So
I'm really pleased for you, Angela.
Well.
You sound in a very different place.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just looking at what I've just written down as well, and learn to say no. That's been my downfall this week, because I was determined I wasn't going to see any more clients on Monday, and had 2 phone calls. Somebody had been in a car crash. Someone running the London Marathon on Sunday had just seized up totally. I do sports massage, and ended up by treating 6 clients,
Yep.
in a day without without my breaks.
Yep.
And that really, really zapped my energy, so it wasn't good for me at all.
Okay. Well, that's about awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's about saying no,
Yep.
as you say. So yeah.
Well done, you. I'm so pleased for you. You just sound totally different.
Yes. And as I said at the start, it's about the long term. It's not about short, quick fix. It's about, as you said, the tortoise and the hare, and and getting there.
So pleased.
So different mindset, different mental stance, definitely.
I can hear it. Brilliant. Well done, you. Thanks a lot, Angela.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hello, Eva. I'm just going to bring you in. I'm going to unmute you now. Hello, Eva. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you loud and clear. How are you doing this week, Eva?
I'm having good and bad, really.
Okay. Do share.
The only bad bits is I'm still, as I put on the forum actually, still got my meat addiction. I'm still enjoying my meats. I'm not quite managing to get rid of that. But
well, don't feel you have to. Can I make a confession? Can I make a confession? I had a piece of steak yesterday. I know.
You sinner, you.
No, I felt like it. Do you know what? My body was saying, have a bit of meat. I went to the supermarket. I bought the best piece of lean steak I could find, and it was delicious. And I'm done for a couple of months.
That's the thing, isn't it? I don't know if it's a bit because I don't want to be gory here, but I'm going through perimenopause at the moment, which means I have periods from hell.
Sure.
That I've never had in my life. So I don't know if it's an iron deficiency as well.
Okay, well, what I would say to you is don't feel you've got to cut it out. Your body's telling you what it needs.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
And my body said to me, my body said it wanted some meat, so I gave it some, and it felt fine, and I didn't need to gorge on meat for 2 weeks. I just needed a little bit there and then.
Yeah, but everything else is I mean, the exercise is just absolutely brilliant. I'm enjoying that, doing that every day, and so
great.
All of that is absolutely great. I'm loving the wheatgrass. I didn't drink that much. Never drank coffee anyway, so that wasn't a problem. So the wheatgrass is fantastic. I've drunk red bush tea for about 5 to 6 years now,
great.
So that hadn't got to be done. The saying no is not an issue as well, because I'm terribly kicked back and I know people are thinking. I don't have to say no because I've organised my life as such. I've been laughing actually listening to this bit about stress actually, because I don't have very much stress really, because of the way I live, and we're very lucky how we live, and we outsource on our work, so we tend to have a lot of, like last week we didn't really work because the weather was so lovely, so we did the garden instead. Brilliant. Just put the business over to our team, so that we're very lucky. I do understand that. I think I'm one of life's rare people that at the moment that can live this way, but it's taken us 5 years to get here. You created it. It doesn't happen by accident. No. Oh no, we planned it and we did it. It was a slight edge thing, you know. And you set yourself free. What we wanted to do. Yeah, you set yourself free with procedures and systems and people who can do what you can do. Yeah, and it's super. And the other thing, the other acidic thing, which I think a lot of people have, and I think that's where the problem is they have acidic people in their life. Of course. Because, you know, which is, you can feel them sometimes when you meet them, can't you? They actually draw the energy from you, don't you? Think, no, I don't want to really be talking to you. So you just have to, you know, because I go to a few networking business meetings, and, you know, some of the people you sort of end up with, and you think, no, I don't really, and they moan, and everything's bad, and doom and gloom, and I think that's really, I feel myself sinking.
I think that's a really important point. And the other thing I would say on that one is limit your exposure to the news, because let's face it, you don't need to be inundated. You can stay informed.
No, I don't watch the news.
No, I don't. I haven't got a TV. And I was talking to somebody else about this today who doesn't watch the news anymore, because it's literally just one crisis after another. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what sells. But it's not good for psychology. It's not good for your acid. It's not good for your stress.
Totally.
And you can recondition
I love watching sport, really. So yeah.
Great.
No,
lovely.
I react to what you were saying about the football. I know, because I'm getting excited because my nephew is a motor racing driver, so he's at the Grand Prix and stuff like that. So I watch the Grand Prix every weekend it's on. I'm getting up really early in the morning to watch the qualifying and all sorts of things. And the thrill you get from that is just marvelous.
Sharing. It's about sharing, isn't it? It's great, and that's magnifying the human experience. It's lovely. It's a great example.
Yes. That's what you've got, and what you were saying about the gratitude journal. That is what I do every night. Because I'm an iPod addict. I love my iPod, and there's a lovely application on that you can get, which is free, which is called a gratitude journal.
Great.
And you do exactly what you said, and you rate your day. You can give your day so many out of 5 stars. You can add photographs of your family members or nice things you've seen, or plants, or the birds, or whatever you've seen. And it's a really nice journal to look back on.
And
you build it up every day, and that's really nice. I'm also using a thing called Shape Up, which I'm using as my food diary.
Great.
Because I was finding I was writing on scraps of paper, and not, if you're out somewhere, you think, I must write that down, and you weren't putting it into the main diary. So I've got my iPod with me all the time. I just tap on that.
Wonderful. Well, look, I think you're doing so well, and it's really nice to hear the three of you and sharing. There are still a couple of challenges out there, but actually, by and large, the wave is positive, and you're realizing what an effect this is having after 5 weeks, and how now that you are committed to making a lifestyle change which will stay with you. This isn't a yo-yo. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't a diet insofar as you're in the diet trap. It's not a trap. It's actually a way out of all of that trap, and I'm so delighted to hear that. So delighted. So thanks for sharing that, Eva. Well done.
Love.
Brilliant. Well, again, some great progress from people on live, and I'm sure if you're listening to the recording of this and you've got to week 5 and you've been practicing these slight edges, putting these little small simple changes into practice over the last 5 weeks, you too will be experiencing a huge wave of positive change right now, and I find that so exciting. It's why I love to do this work, and love to hear from you. So if anybody has any comments that they'd like to email me, it's andrew@addvitality.com, addvitality.com. And I really look forward to talking to you next week when we'll be building momentum and taking you forward to make sure that this lifestyle sticks. And I'm sure by now there's no doubt about that, but I just want to make it an absolute certainty. So it's been wonderful talking to you all tonight, and if you listen to this live, please do go away, do the home play, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Bye for now.